tackle holiday travel together. We all want smooth flights to our festive gatherings, but sometimes things don't go as planned. The good news is you have more power as a passenger than you might think. We're sitting down with a travel expert to break down your key rights and share some simple, smart tips to help you travel with confidence this season. Let's welcome Teresa Murray, Consumer Watchdog Director for PIRG, Public Interest Research Group. Good to have you on the show today, Teresa. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having us.
Of course. So, Teresa, if people are planning to fly over the holidays, which is going to be happening for a lot of people, what should they keep in mind?
Well, a few things. The airports are probably going to be pretty chaotic, pretty stressful. You're all in the same boat, and so we recommend that people just take some steps to control what they can control and to plan ahead. And I can give you a few tips.
Okay, yeah, that would be great, especially when talking to what are the key rights travelers should know about too when they're planning all of these trips.
Sure. Well, the thing to remember is, as a traveler, you do have lots of rights. You have rights if your flight is canceled or if it's delayed for more than 3 hours, if your baggage is lost, if you're stuck on the tarmac. You have all kinds of rights, and nobody's going to remember. It's like, okay, this many hours, this many dollars for this and that. You have rights if your bag is delayed and you have to go purchase toiletries and pajamas, for overnight. So it's important to know that you have rights, and then to go to those rights. And then in addition to that, we really recommend that people take a few steps to plan ahead. First is to download the app for the airline, and to do that for, at least a couple of days ahead of time, and to keep an eye on your notifications in case the flight is canceled or delayed or they offer to rebook you on another flight. And then you should also make sure that the airline has your correct cell phone number and email address, and actually check those a couple of days ahead of time. And then the other thing is, we recommend that people put trackers in their bags, including their carry-ons, because sometimes those can get gate checked. And then the last thing to plan ahead is to get to the airport a little early, even if you have TSE pre-check or clear, because a lot of these flights over the holidays are going to be packed, and if they have to bump people, they may bump the people who came last.
Yeah, and I like the idea of downloading the airline's app. I've done that, and there's been times where even my gate has changed, but if I have the app, I get the notification, I know right ahead, so I'm not as confused at the airport. And you've mentioned that travelers should try to control what they can. What does that look like, Teresa?
Well, I mean, a lot of it does go with planning ahead, making sure that you, for example, take photos of perhaps the inside of your baggage, so that if it is lost or, damaged or something, that you have some kind of proof. I mentioned about the notifications. That certainly is important. And, for people who haven't booked a flight yet, it's really important to try and say, okay, how can I make this as stress-free as possible? Maybe that means a direct flight instead of a connecting flight. Maybe that means just leaving early in the morning and not choosing a late flight, because you might be asking for trouble. And then the other thing that's really important to know, if your flight is canceled or if it's significantly delayed, meaning that it's going to arrive 3 hours or more after the planned arrival, then you have lots of rights. And it depends on the airline. Depending on what it is, they have to rebook you, and some of them may rebook you with a competitor. If you're stuck overnight, most of the airlines will put you up in a hotel, and all of them will provide you with a meal voucher, and some of them will provide you with ground transportation. You can go to the Department of Transportation's website that tells you what all of your rights are, and it's flightrights.gov. So flight rights, plural, .gov, and that spells out what your rights are if your flight is delayed or canceled and it's the airline's fault. So, it's an equipment problem, the pilot didn't show up, scheduling issues, stuff like that. And it's just best to know ahead of time that you have these rights. Again, you don't have to memorize them all, but just know where to go.
Yes, all helpful tips, Teresa. And another tip I want to give to our viewers, kindness goes a long way. So just know when you're at the airport, the TSA employees, it's not their fault. They're also trying to help too. So kindness does go a long way. Teresa, thank you so much for your tips. To our viewers, you can find out more by heading to pirg.org/flight tips.